The afternoon air around Genoa City felt tense, though the sun still shone warmly over the streets. Trouble had a way of spreading through this town like smoke, and today it seemed to be everywhere. Inside Billy Abbott's place, the mood was anything but calm. Papers were scattered across the table, a laptop sat open with marina maps on the screen, and Billy Abbott paced the room like a man trying to outrun his own thoughts. Sally Spectra leaned against the counter, watching him with concern. "So this marina lad," Sally said slowly, "you're sure it's real?" Billy stopped packing and ran a hand through his hair. "It's the only real lid we've got," he replied. "Jack vanished without a trace, phone's dead, no sightings, nothing." He tapped the marina map on the laptops. "But someone saw a boat leave late that night. The timing matches when Jack disappeared." Sally folded her arms. "And Phyllis?" she asked. Billy gave a bitter laugh. "Dragging her feet," he said. "Victor offered her some kind of deal and she's stalling. Meanwhile, my brother could be locked in a cage somewhere." Sally frowned. "You really think Victor is behind this?" Billy looked at her as if the answer were obvious. "This has Victor Newman written all over it." Across town at Society, tension was just as thick. Nikki Newman sat at a table, her posture rigid, her eyes fixed on Phyllis Summers. The restaurant buzzed quietly with lunch customers, but their table felt like the center of a storm. Nikki leaned forward. "Victor is planning something," she said firmly, "and you know what it is." Phyllis lifted her glass and took a slow sip, pretending to be calm. "I think Victor wants you in the dark," she said carefully. Nikki's eyes narrowed. "Don't play games with me." Phyllis gave a small shrug. "Believe me, Nikki, I'd love to tell you everything, but Victor made it very clear this deal stays between us." Nikki's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "Jack Abbott is missing, Victor suddenly wants Chancellor back, and you're negotiating with him." Phyllis didn't answer. The silence said everything. Before Nikki could push further, the restaurant doors burst open. Diane Jenkins Abbott and Kyle Abbott stormed inside. Kyle went straight to the table. "Phyllis," he demanded, "did you make the deal yet?" Phyllis blinked. No." Kyle clenched his fists. "Then what are you waiting for?" Diane stepped forward, her voice shaking with anger. "Jack is in danger." Nikki's head snapped toward her. "What are you talking about?" Diane took a breath. "Victor kidnapped Jack." The words hit the table like a bomb. Nikki stared at her in disbelief. "That's impossible." Diane shook her head. "No, Victor is holding him somewhere. He wants leverage." Kyle added bitterly, "Leverage for Chancellor." Phyllis closed her eyes briefly. Nikki suddenly slammed her hand on the table. "That man has lost his mind." Every nearby customer turned to look. Nikki stood. "Phyllis, make the deal." Phyllis hesitated. "It's not that simple." Nikki's voice rose. "Jack Abbott could be sitting in a cell right now." Diane stepped closer to Nikki. "Jack saved my life once," she said quietly. "He believed in me when no one else did." Her eyes filled with determination. "Please don't let Victor destroy him." The weight of those words hung in the air. Nikki grabbed her purse. "I'm going home," she said sharply. "Victor is going to answer for this." She stormed out of Society without another word. Moments later, Billy Abbott entered the restaurant. He looked around the table. "What did I miss?" Kyle turned toward him. "Victor kidnapped Dad." Billy froze. For a moment, the entire room seemed to stop. Then Billy's expression hardened. "Then we're not waiting anymore," he said. He pointed at the marina location on his phone. "That's where we start." At the Newman Ranch, the massive wooden doors slammed open. Nikki Newman stormed inside like a hurricane. "Victor," she shouted. Her voice echoed through the enormous living room. Footsteps sounded from the hallway as Victor Newman appeared. Calm, controlled, exactly as always. But Nikki's fury was volcanic. "Did you kidnap Jack Abbott?" Victor raised an eyebrow. "That's quite an accusation." Nikki stepped closer. "The Abbotts know about the deal you're making with Phyllis." Victor's face remained unreadable. And if Jack Abbott is being held somewhere because of you," Nikki said, her voice trembling with anger, "you will have to deal with me." Meanwhile, across town, another storm was brewing. At Adam Newman and Chelsea Lawson's apartment, the evening had just begun when a knock came at the door. Chelsea opened it to find Nick Newman and Sharon Newman standing outside. Nick looked tense. "We need to talk to Adam." Adam appeared behind Chelsea. "What's going on?" Nick stepped inside. "We got new information about Matt Clark's." Adam stiffened. Matt Clark was a name that carried nothing but troubles. Sharon spoke gently. "A woman named Sienna Bacall found a connection." Adam frowned. "What kind of connection?" Nick exchanged a glance with Sharon. "Someone named Riza." Adam's face changed instantly. Shock, confusion, and something darker. "Riza," he repeated. Nick nodded. "You know her?" Adam leaned back against the walls. "Yes," he said quietly. "She was my handler in Vegas." Chelsea looked confused. "Handler?" Adam exhaled slowly. "When I used to play high-stakes poker under the name Spider." Nick watched him carefully. "We think she might be hiding Matt Clark's." Adam rubbed his forehead. "That doesn't make sense." Sharon stepped forward. "You knew her well, right?" Adam nodded. "She guided me through underground poker games," he said. "But she wasn't involved with drugs back then." Nick crossed his arms. "People change." Adam didn't answer. His mind was already drifting back to memories he had buried. Vegas, the flashing lights, the smoky rooms, the dangerous games, the version of himself he had tried to forget. Finally, he spoke. "Her last name was Thompson." Sharon nodded. "That's what Sienna said." Nick asked, "Do you know where she lives?" Adam shook his head slowly. "Not anymore." Nick sighed. "We'll keep digging." Adam looked up. "If you need backup, call me." Nick studied him. "You sure about that?" Adam's eyes were serious. "Oh, yes." Later that evening, Nick and Sharon sat inside the coffee house. The place was quiet. Nick stared down at his phone. Sharon watched him. "You're worried about Adams." Nick nodded. "He worked hard to leave that life behind." Sharon sipped her coffee. "But he wants to help." Nick's phone buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. From Matt Clark. Nick's face darkened. "What does it say?" Sharon asked. Nick locked the phone. "Nothing important." But the truth was far worse. Matt's message had been chilling. And they were getting worse every day. Across town, Adam sat alone. The apartment was quiet. Chelsea had gone to bed. Adam stared out the window at the city lights. Memories flooded his mind. Vegas, the poker tables, the name Spider, and Sharon. He remembered the first time she had found him there. He had been lost, confused, his memory gone, but somehow she had still believed in him. Adam closed his eyes. "I buried that version of myself," he whispered. But now the past was clawing its way back. Matt Clark, Riza Thompson, the Vegas underworld. All of it connected. Adam leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "If I start pulling this thread," he murmured to himself, "we could all fall into that monster's hell." And deep down, he knew something terrifying. This story was far from over. Night settled over Genoa City, but sleep was the last thing on anyone's mind. At the Newman Ranch, Nikki Newman stood across from Victor Newman in the grand living room, her hands trembling with anger. Victor watched her carefully. "You're making accusations without proof," he said calmly. Nikki laughed bitterly. "Proof?" she snapped. "Jack Abbott disappears and suddenly you're demanding control of Chancellor, Newman Media, and everything else through Phillies." Victor folded his arms. "I simply made an offer." Nikki stepped closer. "Stop pretending this is business." Her voice shook with fury. "You kidnapped Jack." Victor's eyes hardened. "I did no such thing." Nikki pointed toward him. "You expect me to believe that?" Victor remained silent for a moment. Then he spoke slowly. "You underestimate how dangerous the world can be, Nikki." "That's not an answer." Victor's voice dropped. "Sometimes people disappear because they have enemies." Nikki stared at him. And you're not one of them. Victor didn't respond. The silence only made Nikki more certain. You will bring Jack home, she said firmly. Victor raised an eyebrow. You're giving me orders now. Nikki's eyes filled with anger. If you have anything to do with this, Victor, our marriage won't survive it. For the first time, Victor looked genuinely troubled. Meanwhile, at Society, the restaurant had grown quiet after the chaos earlier in the evening. Billy Abbott, Diane Jenkins Abbott, Kyle Abbott, and Phyllis Summers sat at the table. The tension between them was thick. Billy leaned forward. So Victor changed the deal. Phyllis nodded slowly. He wants everything back. Kyle frowned. What do you mean everything? Phyllis exhaled. Chancellor Newman Media, control over Newman Enterprises. Billy shook his head. That's insane. Diane's voice was sharp. He's doing this because he knows we're desperate. Phyllis nodded. Oh yes. Kyle stood up abruptly. Then we stop waiting. Billy followed him. Exactly. Phyllis looked confused. What are you going to do? Billy pulled out his phone and opened the marina map again. We're going to find Jack ourselves. Diane grabbed her purse. Then let's move. The four of them rushed out of the restaurant. Across town, Nick Newman and Sharon Newman walked slowly along the quiet sidewalk near Crimson Lights. Sharon wrapped her arms around herself. Something about this feels wrong. Nick looked at her. Everything about it feels wrong. Sharon glanced at his phone. You never showed me the message from Matt. Nick hesitated. It's nothing you need to see. Sharon frowned. That bad. Nick sighed. He's getting more threatening. Sharon shook her head. That man is dangerous. Nick nodded. Which is why we have to stop him. At the same moment, Adam Newman sat alone in his apartment. The room was dim except for the glow of the city lights outside the window. On the table in front of him sat a deck of playing cards. Adam slowly shuffled them. The sound triggered memories he had tried to bury. Vegas. The underground poker rooms. The name Spider. He remembered the thrill of winning enormous hands. The danger. The constant tension. And Reza Thompson. She had been sharp, calculating, always one step ahead. She had guided him through that world. Protected him. But she had also been connected to people far more dangerous than any poker game. Adam stopped shuffling the cards. What are you hiding now, Reza? He whispered. His phone buzzed. A message from Nick. Call me if you remember anything about Reza. Adam stared at the message. He didn't respond. Instead, he closed his eyes. Another memory surfaced. A hotel room in Vegas. Reza sitting across from him. You're good at the game, she had told him. But the game isn't the dangerous part. Adam had asked her what she meant. Her answer had haunted him for years. People like Matt Clark, she said. They're the real monsters. Adam opened his eyes. Matt Clark. The name felt like a dark shadow spreading through everything. At the marina outside Genoa City, Billy's car pulled into the empty parking lot. The dock stretched across the dark water. Moonlight shimmered on the surface of the lake. Billy stepped out of the car. Kyle, Diane, and Phyllis followed. Kyle looked around nervously. You really think he's here? Billy pointed toward the far end of the marina. That's where the boat left from. They walked along the wooden docks, the boards creaking under their feet. The wind carried the smell of water and fuel. Diane whispered, this place feels creepy. Billy nodded. Kidnappers usually don't pick cheerful locations. They reached a large yacht tied to the dock. The name of the vessel was barely visible in the dark. Kyle stepped forward. Someone's inside. Billy's jaw tightened. Then let's find out who. At the Newman Ranch, Nikki stood near the fireplace, her anger still burning. Victor poured himself a drink. You're letting emotions cloud your judgment, he said. Nikki turned toward him. Jack Abbott is missing. Victor calmly sipped his whiskey. And you assume I'm responsible. Nikki's voice cracked. I know you, Victor. Victor set the glass down. You should. Their eyes locked. Years of history hung between them. Finally, Victor spoke quietly. If Jack Abbott has been taken, I assure you it wasn't my doing. Nikki studied his face carefully. She had known Victor Newman for decades. He was capable of many things, but sometimes even she couldn't read him. Back at the marina, Billy slowly pushed open the door of the yacht. The interior was dark. Kyle stepped in behind him. "Hello," Billy called. No answer. They moved deeper inside. Suddenly, Diane gasped. "There's something here." She pointed toward a chair in the corner. Rope lay on the floor beside it. Kyle's heart pounded. He was here. Billy clenched his fist. "But he's gone now." Phyllis whispered. Victor moved him. Billy looked at the ropes again. This wasn't Victor. Everyone turned toward him. "What do you mean?" Diane asked. Billy pointed at the knot tied in the ropes. "This is professional work." Kyle frowned. "Victor hires professionals all the time." Billy shook his head. "No." His voice grew darker. "This is something else." Across the city, Adam suddenly stood up from his chair. Another memory had surfaced. A warehouse near the Vegas docks. Matt Clark talking to Riza. Adam had overheard them once. Matt had said something strange. "If the Newmans ever cross me again, they'll regret it." Adam's heart raced. Matt isn't just targeting Nick and Sharon, he realized. He's targeting the entire family. Adam grabbed his phone and called Nick. Nick answered immediately. "Adam, I remember something," Adam said urgently. "What?" Adam spoke slowly. "Matt Clark once threatened the Newmans." Nick's voice turned serious. "What kind of threat?" Adam stared out the window. "The kind that destroys everything." Nick went silent. Then he said one word. "Vegas." Adam nodded. "Oh, yes." At the marina, Billy looked around the empty yacht. Jack Abbott was gone, but the evidence was clear. Someone had held him here. Kyle clenched his fists. "We were too late." Diane whispered, "What if we never find him?" Billy shook his head firmly. "We will." He looked out at the dark waters. "Because whoever did this made one mistake." Kyle looked at him. "What mistake?" Billy's voice was cold. "They picked the wrong family to mess with." Across Genoa City, 3 separate battles were forming. Nikki against Victor, the Abbotts searching for Jack, and the Newman brothers preparing to face Matt Clark. And as the night grew darker, one truth became unavoidable. The storm surrounding Genoa City was only just beginning. The fight in Vegas would change everything. And when Nick and Adam Newman finally confronted Matt Clark, they would become a force no one could stop.